been made and sealed with love, but time to battle, I'll find them all. I felt the whips and remember chains, but my soul has been forged by my father's flames. Fight your fears and heal your pain, and victory will be in your name.
I used to be weak, but I'm not weak no more. I found the strength of my ancestors deep down in my African core. I used to be frightened, I'm not afraid no more. The Father blessed me with the heart of a lion and a warrior soul. So no weapon that form against I shall not prevail. And no man that rise against I, that war they shall never win. 'Cause I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer, conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer, conquer them.
Tell them no retreat, no surrender. I shall fight till the end of days. I was born as a Makai warrior, and the Almighty God my blade. Fire burn all Satan carrier. Father loose all shackles and chain. This morning first thing as I wake up, King David turns Sam to the brain. Don't let your courage go down, keep it up. And if your heart rip up and stitch it up, don't let your faith them fall, pick it up. When my cup was empty, God fill it up. Don't take the devil contract, rip it up. And if your bad mind people to go meet it up, pass me the Congo jump and let me beat it up. God on my side, me no give it
So
up.
no weapon that form against I shall not prevail. And no man that rise against I, that war they shall never win. 'Cause I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer, conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer, conquer them.
Thank you, Father. I want to say thank you, Lord. You are everything, Father. Thank you. Father, you alone shall guide me. No man shall lead my path. In the wind I hear your quiet whispers, and you heal my broken heart. Even some of my friends turn enemies, and they pray for right to feel. And remember you gave us your only begotten son, but we gave him the wound of lies. Send down your warriors with the hello, they carry down to the end of days. No matter how the devil try trick me, unto you my soul I will give. Father, I know this time is coming. I can see the high tide raise. Without you there is no rudder. Could you be that real in my soul?
No weapon that form against I shall not prevail. And no man that rise against I, that war they shall never win. 'Cause I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer, conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer, conquer them.
I am a man. I am a champion. I am a warrior. So who are you to tell me that I cannot make? Who are you to tell me that I am not the greatest thing that God ever created?
Good morning, Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique. You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada. A very special good morning to those of you joining us on 97.5 CitysoundFM, 89.5 CRFM, 92.9 Sister Al Radio broadcasting from Hillsborough, Carriacou, 91.9 and 91.5 RealFM Radio, and 94.9 We Noise Radio out there in Brooklyn, New York. A very special good morning to those of you joining us on the live video, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you may be. Good morning to you. It is a beautiful, beautiful Monday morning in the Spice Isle of Grenada. The sun is shining, the birds are chirping. people are bustling from here to work to whatever business they have in whichever part of the country they are right now. Things moving, all right? And of course, with me in studio this morning, none other than Mr. Roland Spola. Good morning, Mr. Spola.
Good morning to you, Miss Duncan. Before I go any further to say hello to the people out there, I just want to record that, put it publicly. I don't understand why you always refer to me as a none other. Anyway, that's a discussion for another time.
Who else come here and sit down with me to be co-host, Mr. Bola?
You can say my co-host, Mr. Bola. Every day I keep trying to understand, why do you have to say none other than? But we can discuss that otherwise. Good morning to the listeners out there. I am happy again this Monday morning to be here with you. I really do hope that most among us would have had a splendid weekend. In fact, I wish that everyone had it. Understanding the nature of life, there are reasons and rationales sometimes why some of us may not have had such a wonderful weekend. But it was a time, in some instances, for relaxation, for reflection, for rest. For others, it was an opportunity to catch up on some stuff that you wanted to get done, week or weeks ahead, and didn't get the chance the weekend sometimes present that opportunity to you. Whatever you did for your weekend, I really do hope that you did get some time for rest and you're feeling rejuvenated, revitalized. It's another Monday morning. It's the official first working day of the week here in Grenada. There are some jurisdictions around the world where every day is a working day. And we do have some people that work on weekends, or security officers. Now that some of the hotels are opening up and the tourism sector is starting to buzz a little bit, there may be people involved in those areas that do work on a weekend. Some of the bus and taxi drivers, the medical people in the medical profession, the police and other armed forces, they do work on weekend, and I really wish that for those who had to, that it was a productive weekend for them. I had a wonderful time. I did get some work done. I did reach out to one of my friends who I normally assist on a weekend, who's doing some work. We still have in some places around Grenada that little community spirit where people do go out and help each other, something what we refer to and has been called over the years as a maroon. There are some younger people probably may not know what that really is, and it is where, the community would come together, friends, of course, sometimes both men and ladies, and they would assist a neighbor, a community person to get some work done, whatever it may be. Some people, it is working the land, cleaning it up, preparing it for planting. Others maybe they're moving a house, dwelling out from one place to the next. In my friend's case, he's doing some renovation and a little expansion. And so, but whatever it is you did, those who went to church, we're grateful for that you're praying for yourself, for your neighbors, for your country, for the nation, for the government. We appreciate that. Those who did not actually go into the church building and congregate, but they stayed at home and they called on the Lord and Father God to continue to bless this country. We have been doing very well. We thank you. Those who are celebrating today, we want to celebrate with you. Let me take the opportunity on behalf of Miss Duncan and myself and HARDTALK to say happy anniversary, happy birthday, happy wedding, whatever it is you're celebrating. Well, you're probably just celebrating life. It's another day when we should be glad. Wonderful Monday morning, pretty good. I went to the garden very early this morning, earlier than I normally would go. And just when I was ending up, just coming up to 7 o'clock to go get myself ready to get here, a nice little shower came down in my neck of the woods. So thank you, Lord. Grenadians, we are on. This is HARDTALK. Call your friend, call your neighbor, make some noise, shout out. Put your head out in the wind and shout out, neighbor, they stop. Let it tune in. We are going live island-wide. That's one of the things about HARDTALK. Any part of the island you are, you can hear us, whether you're in Carriacou, Petit Martinique, or any part of Grenada. Even if you're in New York, we are live on WeNoise Radio and on the World Wide Web on the different platforms. So let's be part of the conversation. You can send us a message, you can WhatsApp, you can call when the lines are open, which we have not opened yet, but not too long from now to let you have your say. Let's have the discussion, be part of it. Don't be afraid. This is your program where you are able to calling. We'll entertain you. We just ask you to be respectful in whatever you say. And remember that name calling and saying things about people or of any situation that you have not verified could be very troubling. So we request that you at least verify the information that you're giving before you do so. But let's have a wonderful Monday. Again, I say happy Monday morning to all of you.
All right. And Mr. Bola, I'd like to say happy International Farmers Day to you and, of course, to all the farmers here in the Tri-Island States, Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique. Today, October 12th, is International Farmers Day.
I didn't know that. Thank you for saying that, Ms. Duncan. And this is something, having said that, it just brought to mind that there was a discussion held one time, and we need to verify that. Because we oftentimes say it. I think even me, I said it at times too, Tri-Island State. And someone once said to me, and there was a little argument, and they brought the rationale that we are actually not a Tri-Island State. It continues to be the state of Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique.
Okay.
But they are not, it's not recognized, and it needs verification. I mean, I'm just showing it out there.
Yeah,
I don't want that to be an argument
We'll
today,
verify.
but we need to verify because the person, the individual, was adamant, and it's a fairly educated person who said to me, no, we're making a mistake by saying Tri-Island State. It's the state of Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique, but it's not like 3 islands, yeah?
Right.
And it's always been in the back of my head to raise it elsewhere and to find out. But, you know, with a lot of other things happening, I oftentimes miss that. So I think it's something that we must put on make a little record of so we can continue to inquire about that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Now, we're going to open the lines early this morning, and this morning we're talking protocols. This morning we're talking consideration. This morning we're talking about getting the facts, knowing the facts, sharing factual information, and not taking the term run with it literally by picking up every single piece of information that you get and run with it, and not verifying what you have received. That's what we're talking about this morning, Mr. Bola. I think it's necessary, and I want the general public, our listeners, our callers to keep that in the back of your minds when you are calling. We're talking protocols. We're talking what do you have to do when you're coming into Grenada. We're talking about what do you as a Grenadian, what are you responsible for? What do you do living here? You ain't visiting, you ain't going nowhere to come back, you're here. What is your responsibility as a Grenadian in terms of following the protocols, making sure that the protocols are adhered to so that we don't have to deal with an issue of community spread, or we don't have to deal with an after the fact everybody running and put on mask and sanitize hands and then we all have to go back under quarantine and all of that. We don't want to have to deal with that kind of situation. This morning, that's what we're talking about. What is my responsibility as a Grenadian in this fight against COVID-19, and I think it's important. It's an important conversation that we need to have even more now than ever with the reopening of the borders. Over the weekend, I've heard the most bogus things I've ever, well, let me not say ever, because I've really heard some bogus things. COVID has really done a number on some people's minds, but I've heard some things over the weekend. I've experienced some things over the weekend, and I really hope that that is not the direction that we are headed as a people, because it's very sad. I want to appeal to us. I want to put this in the best possible way, Mr. Bola, so nobody misunderstands what I'm saying. We are in an era where we are dealing with COVID-19 internationally. It is a social pariah in some forms. It is not singular to Grenada. The issues and the effects of COVID, the implementing of protocols and the calls to wear your mask and social distance, wash your hands and sanitize and so on. It's not singular to Grenada. It is being asked all over the world from people all over the world that we do that to protect ourselves, to keep ourselves safe. and to keep the people around us safe. That's the reason. There is no hidden agenda. There is no conspiracy. There is no theory that says otherwise. If you believe that, then, I mean, that is your belief. Nobody can hold you accountable for that. However, protocols are being put in place for the singular reason of keeping us safe, ensuring that we don't have community spread, ensuring that we can manage to live and to survive and to exist in a world with COVID-19. Because we have no idea when it's going to go, how it's going to go, what year we're going to be COVID-free and people will be able to travel as normal and things would go back to I can't say normal because it's never going to be the same as it was before, but we can go back to existing in comfort. We don't know when that time is going to come. Now, with that in mind, we have to continue moving along here in Grenada. We cannot allow COVID to completely and totally dictate us. We have to be able to find a way to move around COVID, to exist around COVID, until we are at a place where we can exist with it. With that being said, people, please, Mr. Bola, I'm begging this morning, please, it is important for us to follow the protocols. There was an alleged story over the weekend of a gentleman who went into a quarantine facility. They're doing their checks and so on. He had to jump over the veranda. They call him ambulance because partner break his foot.
He went to a COVID
facility to visit an individual there in their room.
I just want to get that straight because from my understanding of how the facilities operate, there are some facilities where family members are allowed to drop off stuff like food and other things that you may need. But I don't think once someone is there being quarantined, I don't think you are allowed to interact with them or to see them, but you can drop it at the desk to the security, what have you. So the fact that that person was actually in visiting means that they got there illegally. Well, I'll have to assume that that was an illegal entry.
Yeah, he sneaked into the property.
But also, every property that has been approved as a Pure Grenada center for people to quarantine should have some level of security based on explanations I've heard from the Minister of Health and others. So
he sneaked onto the property, and I was informed reliably, of course, that they conducted a search because I guess, of course, they would have noticed that he entered the property. He jumped from the room and broke his leg. They had to call the ambulance. I mean, these are really, really unnecessary extremes, Mr. Bola. Unnecessary extremes.
Maybe that person had to collect something from the individual.
But what is 4 days to wait?
Oh, but then you didn't have to, even if you had to collect, you didn't have to get in there yourself. You could have messaged the individual if it was an urgent case. Arrangements, just like how the arrangements is being made for relatives and family members to drop stuff for those who are in quarantine. Some sort of arrangement probably could have been made to be left at the front desk. And I mean, I'm just looking at possibilities. It may not be that at all, but trying to give, as with oftentimes the benefit of the doubt to the individual and looking at all of the extremities that may have existed. But it also is a teachable moment for all of us, because some people may by now become very wary, very tired of hearing us, and others speak about that issue of following protocols, of doing as we are told by the authorities, because it is for our protection. And some people probably may be at the stage now where they think, well, why this and why that? In fact, there are people asking those questions because they continue to say, well, we don't have a case in Grenada. What are we protecting ourselves from? Why are we continuing to push this and push that and push the other? And the fact is, as we have said before, you don't know where and when you may get another case. Now we are opening up our borders. And you see, in the minds of some people, it's either one extreme or the next. If you open it up, let's just be free and have fun and frolic and take no precautions. Or else, don't open at all. But it is not a straight case like that. Now you have a country that has to continue to operate. You have government have responsibilities that they have to adhere to. People have to continue to make a livelihood.
Yep.
So it is not either or. It is about finding a way, as you have mentioned before, to exist and coexist in a comfortable but a very precautionary and safe way with COVID-19, because neither of us, even the medical experts, cannot yet say to us that COVID-19 will come to an end by X date, Y date, this year, next year, the following year. People and those who are doing the research and trying to manufacture a vaccine cannot yet say that a vaccine will be ready and available for prevention or protection by such and such date. There's a lot of assumptions that we may have something in 6 months, from others in 8 months, from others in a year. We don't know. There's still a lot of unknowns. I mean, we must admit that from the time COVID came around to now, a lot more is known about the virus and how it operates, but there's still some unknowns.
Yeah.
So we have to educate ourselves. We have to listen to the authorities. We have to listen to the health professionals. I mean, a lot of us can have assumptions. It is easy for any one of us to pick up a device and put out our feelings, and in most instances, when people do that, they don't say, well, I'm putting up a post here and that is my feeling.
Yeah.
Or, that's just how I see it. They put it out in such a way that when you read it, you think that this is factual, that research went into it. Absolutely not. And so that's why we always call for verification. You hear it, and to use your term from Mr. Killer's song, don't just run with it. Yeah. I know we was jumping and it was hard when he said pick up something and run. Yeah,
I'm quite sure that's not what he meant.
Right. But in these instances, because this is life and death, this is about our health. This is about our own preservation. And if we are not prepared to make a sacrifice, to make the commitment, and to do what is necessary for preservation of our own lives and the protection of our livelihoods, whom do we expect to do it for us? Yes?
Absolutely.
So, friends, we have to be very careful, and I really, really don't understand yet why this gentleman, and I call him gentleman,
Felt the need
to go into the facility.
Yeah. Well, we have to understand that it is important. The protocols are there for a reason. So you come into Grenada, and I've seen that Grenada has added PCR testing, a negative PCR test to the Carriacou bubble. So there was that Carriacou bubble of islands where before, in the protocol before, it wasn't required that you do a PCR test to come in because there is that bubble. Now you are required. And these policies are, as they always say, it changes as time goes by because the situation is fluid and the protocols can't be so stringent that they are unable to change to suit the protocols. So we have to be mindful of that. The protocols are going to change as time goes by, but it is important for us to follow the protocols. So for those of you in the diaspora who are coming home, and from the reports that we are receiving, a lot of the problem stems there. Please, it's not all of you, some of you. Please, You love Grenada. Grenada is your home. You want to be here. You feel a sense of patriotism, entitlement, because Grenada is yours. It's your home. It is your soil. However, do those of us here a favor, please. When you come to the place where we reside, where we have called home for so long, where we are doing everything that we can to keep ourselves safe, please, just follow the protocols. It is imperative. I don't know how much more I can stress how important it is for us to follow the protocols. You come, you ask for permission to go home and quarantine. And even that, there are very strict protocols following that. So some people are of the impression that I have my house at home and there's nobody else living there. I'm going to apply to quarantine at home and I'm going to get through. It doesn't work like that. There is a criteria that you have to follow or that you have to meet in order to qualify for home quarantine. It's not just I have a home, there's nobody living there, and I'm going to go and I'm going to quarantine. It doesn't work like that. There is a criteria given to certain individuals who apply. Not everybody that qualify going to get through, Mr. Buller. Not everybody.
Of course, the minister did explain how that works.
Yeah.
You need to apply way before arriving in Grenada. So just for further explanation, it's not a case where you come in and when you get to the airport, when you arrive here, you say, well, I live in X place, it's my home, there's no one else living there, so I think it's safe for me to be quarantined there. No, it doesn't operate and work out that way. The protocol is that you, at least 7 or 8 days before arrival, to give sufficient time to the authorities to have the area checked out, to have the house checked out, to, do some from background check into it, and then to get to you, even before you arrive on island, to let you know, well, we have approved your home facility, or we did not approve it, and if it is approved, what are the criteria? What are the circumstances under which you would be allowed to be home quarantined?
But honestly, Mr. Bola, I am of the firm belief, and I think it's time that, we're trying to accommodate people's situations, whether it's financial, whether it's personal, whether it's medical, whatever it is. But I think one thing that needs to remain constant as it relates to COVID is the quarantine. And this is my opinion, that people should quarantine in a facility. There should be no home quarantine. Quarantine for your 4 days, get your tests, and then everything copacetic. I cannot understand why we have to be policing big people. If you know you have to quarantine for 4 days, why is it that people have to be saying that you're outside, you're gone to fit? You understand? Why does the Ministry of Education, Health, Lord, my brain is in education this morning. Why does the Ministry of Health have to constantly be checking up on people, like, when you're babysitting the children, and you always had to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do, or they're doing what you leave them to do? I mean, why does that have to happen? Why is that necessary? When the Ministry of Health can be focusing their energies elsewhere, you had to be policing big people. Because we cried, oh, we ain't no COVID, open up the place, loosen up the thing. You open up the place, you loosen up the thing, and these are the things that you have to deal with. These are the things that we are trying to avoid. Sometimes you just have to save people from themselves. You just have to.
Well, it's not a new phenomenon. The issue about having to police people and having to protect people from their own selves is not a new phenomenon. I don't know. It takes me back to the song by Bob Marley, Emancipate Yourself from Mental Slavery. Yes?
You're singing it this morning?
No. There are some people who don't like my singing. It appears as though you enjoy my singing, but some people don't like it. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. For some of us, and I would have thought that in a COVID-19 situation where the evidence are real and before us, outside of what has happened in Grenada, within the region, we see and we hear the news. And I think most of us are in Grenada, if not all of us, at one time or the other, will or would have been in a position to view something on television, to see the news. And people share everything these days through social media. And most people do have a phone and they are on social media, whether it's the Facebook or the YouTube or whatever. Everything is shared. Although we oftentimes say not everything has to be accepted and taken at the word and you need verification. But I think sufficient, the information spread is sufficient enough that most of us should have a reasonable idea of the effects, negatively so, of COVID and what it's doing. So with all of that, I would have thought that people in general, and I'm making a generalized statement now, including myself and everyone else, the authorities and everyone else, would take a more sensible approach as it relates to COVID. Yes? But the whole issue of policing ourselves, we have just grown to that. It's like it's traditionalized in our mind. You have a show someplace. Some people are so used to not wanting to pay at the door. Even if the show is free, you still just find some guys climbing the fence, you know. Well, they can easily walk through. But it is a mental thing for some of us, right? Yeah. And it's something that we have to learn. We have to change. We have to learn to respect authority, respect rules and regulations. For a lot of us, and for some of us, once there is a rule, once there is something set down for us to follow, it becomes a problem for us. Yeah. You know, it makes us feel that we have to be defiant. We have to do something contrary to what the regulation asks for. So when you ask, why does the Ministry of Health have to police big people? To me, it's a mindset thing. It is something that some people have little or no control, or probably isn't making sufficient effort to control themselves. I mean, it happens with a lot of other things. We know that excessive drinking of alcohol is bad. But yet still, for some of us, we have a little money, we meet a few friends, we'll drink to the point where we don't even know ourselves. Yeah. We have heard, we have seen, we know the medical effects, negatively so, of overconsumption of alcohol. We know the dangers of smoking, even the packages. Cigarettes said that the Surgeon General wants that smoking is bad for your health, but we indulge ourselves in it. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't come as a surprise. However, though, I applaud the authorities for the efforts that they're making, and authorities here meaning everyone associated with health, the ministers, the workers, the medical professionals, the police officers, the people who try on a day-to-day basis to get us to adhere to, who police the laws, who speak to us, who in some instances some people get charged for it, you know, and charging for not wearing some face covering or a mask or what have you is not unique to Grenada only. I mean, you listen to the international news, and in a lot of jurisdictions where probably there was not a charge before, they have made it into law now. In England, in Australia, in a lot of those places, and some pretty hefty fine. I know, for example, in Australia, it's $1,000 US. You would be fined for not wearing your mask. Some places in the United States, where at one time, even the president himself did not advocate wearing of a mask. Today, you're hearing a different story. You know, he's saying something different. So the point is, I'm saying that there's information sufficiently available for us as Grenadians, as citizens of this state, this small island state, to understand we need to do better than we're doing.
Absolutely.
All right? And the chances are, if we continue to neglect that responsibility and to behave as though we are immune already as a nation to the sickness. I mean, sometimes people joke about it. Oh, well, God is a Grenadian. He wouldn't allow this to happen to us. And we can have a laugh about it. But the reality is, it is possible.
It is.
It can be any day, anytime, anyway.
And I
right?
want us
So we need to be careful.
I want us to put into perspective, Mr. Bola, that we are not sitting here saying that everything is going to be peaches and cream when we follow the protocols, because it is expected. We would hope that we do not, but it is expected that with the movement of people back and forth from the islands, or even coming in from the international world, that we will get a case or two. However, what we need to put into perspective, Mr. Bola, is how that case presents.
Yeah.
Is it a case that comes in a controlled setting? So you have someone, they come in, they test, they get a positive result, they've been in quarantine, they're able to manage, as we've seen before, and we've been able to manage. This is not something that's going to be new to us. Our original cases originated presented in that way.
In that way, yeah.
Right? So is it an issue where we have someone who came in quarantined, got a positive result and need to stay in quarantine for 14 days? Or is it presented as someone who came in, broke the protocols, and there is a risk of community spread? Or is it presenting in a way that there is a cluster that you have to now isolate because these people have been engaged with each other, but yet it's not community spread, it's just a cluster. So we have to keep all of these things in mind, and we have to prepare ourselves for the fact that at some point we are going to get a case. When that point will be, we don't know. We're hearing a lot of news and a lot of speculation and so on. But the fact of the matter is, what we need to keep in mind is the way in which the cases may present themselves. That is what we have to be mindful of. If the case presents as someone in a controlled setting, do we need to get all frantic and start running all over the place and pulling our children out of school and all of that? Is that what we need to be doing in that point? No, it is not, because it is controlled. Now, if there is a case of community spread, we do need to be concerned, because we need to say, okay, well, did I come in contact with this person, or did I come in contact with somebody who came in contact with that person? But these are the conversations, the level-headed conversations that we need to have. These are the rationales that we need to start building. This is the deductive reasoning that we need to start having, and the conversations that we need to start having with ourselves. But also, Mr. Bola, we have to keep in mind that while we encourage people to keep an eye out for those who may break the protocols and so on, it is not advised that you just go about calling people names and saying all kind of thing about them. Eh? And I'll give you an example. This morning on one of the radio stations, I heard an individual call and indicate that there was a gentleman from Mount Morris who just came out of quarantine, just came in on Friday, and he went and socialized with people. And these kind of things can be dangerous if not handled properly, because that individual was very much mistaken, because I know the gentleman. He came in last Saturday, not the Saturday gone, the one before that, and he quarantined. Actually, he quarantined for 6 days because he was awaiting his PCR results. He got his PCR results, and the gentleman came out of quarantine clean and clear. And he now, because he's been trying to get back into Grenada for months now, he's been eager. And the gentleman got out of quarantine, he clean and clear, and he went to socialize with his friends, of course, following the protocols established. So when he heard himself being called on radio this morning, he was rather upset, and he reached out to me and he found out, well, did I do anything wrong? What did I do that, was I supposed to stay home for 14 days after I come out in quarantine? Look, I did my PCR test and I'm negative and so on. And I said to him, no, you did everything that you were supposed to do. And I advise that you continue to do the things that you are doing to keep yourself and, of course, the rest of the population safe. So these are the things that we need to keep in mind, that you don't just go out there calling people's name and saying things because you believe that what somebody tell you is true. It's okay to call the Ministry of Health and verify, because you are concerned. But to put these things into a social atmosphere, it's unfair to the individual. you know, because now they are uncomfortable, now they don't know what to do, you know, and you would hope that people would come back, and after going through the ordeal of having to quarantine and do a PCR test and all of that, you would want them to be comfortable, you know. So we're advising, be vigilant, but also be smart and be respectful of other people as well. All right, we're going to open up the lines at this point. The number to call is 440-7377 if you're calling locally. If you are in the diaspora and you want to give us a call, the number to call is 347-329-3101. Follow the protocol. As I hear somebody on a radio station say this morning, if you're coming to Grenada, we welcome you, we accept you. Just follow the protocols. If you find the protocols here too hard to follow, I want to say it in layman terms, so I wouldn't say stay away there. I would say you may need to reconsider. You may need to reconsider visiting Grenada at this time. Let's take this call. We have our first caller on the line. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Yeah, good morning to you,
Hi.
Duncan
Hi.
and Mr. Wola.
How are you, brother?
Again, not so bad. You know what I mean? I just love to hear or listen to this program and the way you all explain and dissect and analyze the situation. You know, very, very educational, very informative, you know, the way you share information, you know, and so on. But, you know, something leaves me almost breathless. When I heard the rumor that there was an individual who visited a quarantine facility, it was sometime yesterday or when, and had to jump maybe from the veranda of the building. I mean, and I asked the question.
Carla, he didn't have to. He chose to, because he could have easily just give himself up to the authorities.
Thank you, Mr. Wall,
Yeah.
And chose to, having to. But I mean, what was the need for that person to having to want to visit whoever he wanted to visit at the facility? I mean, just a couple of days or maybe a week under a week that somebody is expected to remain in quarantine, and once the test proved negative, they would be out. So, I mean, sometimes unnecessarily we get into activities, into things that we should not do.
Yes.
Sometimes we invite trouble.
Yes.
We bring trouble upon ourselves. You know, this morning, Ms. Duncan was saying that she would have liked the conversation to be centered around our responsibility and our response to, or keeping the protocols, right, that are in place, trying to maintain the protocol, comply with the protocols that are in place. And I often say that is one of my calls all the time. When I speak to people, I meet people, I say to them, well, why are you not complying? Because they give you 1,001 reasons why they should not comply, why we should not comply. But I say, but if something were to happen, then we turn around and we point fingers and we blame and blame and blame and blame.
Yes.
Come on, we got to stop that kind of thing. We have to change that kind of mindset, and we have to take responsibility. We come on. So don't we have responsibility? We always look into somebody else to be responsible for what we should be responsible for, you know? And that is a problem that we have in this country. We need to take responsibility. We need to be responsible as a people, you know, and so on.
Yeah.
Last Friday, I was in Grenville, and I was speaking to a number of persons. So I spoke to a number of persons because normally when I leave my home and I go out, I like to engage. I like to, you know, speak to people. And I engage on a regular basis when I'm out of home, quite a number of people. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I do have to help correct people because, you know, you often hear people spread rumors or say things that they cannot substantiate, or they just repeat after other people and so on and so forth. So I love engaging people, speaking to people, and sharing information with people. They might also have information to share with me. Yeah. But I remember I was speaking to a gentleman, a very responsible gentleman. And while we were speaking, the whole idea, the question of, I said, wait, no, but are we going to have World Food Day this year? So he said, I'm not sure about, I made the COVID-19, I don't know. I said, what? That is a very important event, and I always look forward to it, and I hope it would happen. But I was pleased and I was happy when I heard Dr. Malachi Dawkins on the radio this morning on To The Point, and he was speaking about World Food Day. So it's going to happen, right, on Friday at the stadium. So I really look forward to that, and I hope that people would attend. You know, they would have the necessary protocols in place. So I hope people would attend, people would go and support the farmers that they talk about so much. We hear a lot about farming and about the farmers and lack of support for the farmers and so on. But with the consumers, how much are we prepared or how much do we support the farmers? You know, we have to be real here, you know. We need to get real here. The old talking, you know, and the backbiting and the criticizing and the condemning and the fighting, that doesn't help us. We need to come together. We need to settle down and work together as a people. You know, we really need to do that.
Certainly.
Some time ago, you know, on another program, they were talking about, I think it was the civil society organization. You had 3 representatives, and I think they were talking about the Constitution, and they were talking about rights and freedoms. And what I want to say here is that, you know, I expect people coming on a program to be responsible, right? And to be fair and to be honest with the people and not mislead or misguide or misdirect people. Because I'm afraid that what I heard last week was, I don't know if it was a deliberate attempt to mislead people, but that is misleading sometimes. You have to help people to be responsible. Normally, why should the politicians or those in authority, the Ministry of Health or whoever, want to restrain people's rights, people's right to move about, people's movement? Why should they want to constrain anybody, restrict anybody's movement? Because of a pandemic, a world pandemic that the entire world faces, and that we need to be responsible in order to contain the virus, to contain the spread. So therefore, certain decisions had to be taken. You know, and these people and them went out on a tangent, and they were just trying to say, Lord have mercy, when are we going to be responsible? When are we going to be prepared to work together and to be honest and to be straightforward with our people? You know, the government or the powers that we were taking measures that they deem necessary, and that is not just, as Ms. Duncan was saying, singular or unique to Grenada. It's countries all over the world are taking the necessary measures, and we are guided by our different organizations regionally and internationally. Yep. And therefore, the protocol that we have in place is not to restrict anybody really, but it's to protect us, to safeguard us. Yeah. You know, because if something were to happen, we turn in around and blame. And we know about our health facility. We talk a lot about that. We know our limitations. So let us work in accordance with that. We do not want to put unnecessary strain on the system, right? And then we are not able to respond in the way we should, right? And so on in the event that something should happen. So again, I am appealing to my people, to our people, to be responsible. All of us have a responsibility. We cannot just expect politicians and those in authority to be responsible, and we're being irresponsible. Mm-hmm. In order for things to be better, to change, we have to be the change. We have to reflect the change that we want to see. Too many times I hear people are all talking, and at the end of the day, I mean, you ask, how does that benefit? How does that profit us? It profits us in no way at all. It's not helpful. It's not useful. You know, it's utter nonsense. And I really, really do hope that we could settle down and work together. And if we would only do that, we would be amazed, we would be surprised to see the changes that would happen, you know. So again, I'm appealing to my people, do not be misled, right? Do not be misled. When you hear something, examine it, try to dissect it, try to get into the root of it, right? To the source of it, before you take it and run with it. And the bad thing about it is that it seems that our people seem to be more interested with the light in the sensational news, in the sexy news. If we hear good news, we hardly want to share it. Yep. But if we hear the sexy and the sensational news, that's what we delight in, and we run with it. Come on, our people, let's do better than that. Thank you.
Thank you too, caller. We appreciate that. Sometimes you make some really good points, and he appeals. And we need more for our people to do that. And I recall sometime, was it last week, when someone sent in one of the comments that came via social media was saying it is about the best time now to have the varying organizations, civil society, trade unions, and whoever, make that clarion call. Show that they too are interested in seeing betterment and seeing, you know, and we want to appeal not just to our people to do what is right and what is best for their own health and for their livelihood, but also the organizations that have that ability, to pull people together to go ahead and do that. There's another caller there?
Good morning.
Yes. Good morning. Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Buller. Mr. Buller, a question I'd like to ask. How long will an employee last on a job if when your employer gives you instructions to follow? Right? To follow. Because you working you're on a job and the manager giving you instructions to carry out and you don't obey that instruction, you will not be long on that work. Right? I have to say as adults and parents, we have to set the example to our children. And if we as parents, adults, set the example to our children, much more people.
Are you close to your radio? Are you close to your radio?
But you see what happened now? You see, when adults disobedient to authority, the trend follow. I call upon the parents, be responsible, obey instruction, and do what they say to the government see. Because we have to obey the law of the land. And when we obey, we save a life. But when we disobey, we die. So I call upon the Grenadian people. Let us obey the law of the land, which is to wear a mask wherever you're outside. And if you say you care and you love your parents, and you have true patriots of your country, you will make sure people you want to live for long. Right? And you want to live for long. And when you go there and you come without a mask and you come back home, you could put in your family life in danger. Right? And what is the role of a parent is to protect and to provide for the family and to take care of them. So I call upon each and everyone in Grenada, Carriacou, and Pitomati, obey instruction. Because instruction is very important, and when you obey, life saved. But when you disobey, you face the consequence. So Mr. Bola, Ms. Duncan, you all have a wonderful day. God bless you all.
Thank you, caller.
You know, Mr.
God
Bola,
bless you too.
You hear a lot about people talking about, my rights and my freedoms. Ask them what rights and freedoms they're talking about. Like to literally list the rights and freedoms that they're referring to. And most people can't.
Well, if I can't, I would definitely tell you as enshrined in the Constitution.
Yeah, but what are the rights?
That's what I would say. but
what are these rights? Because you hear, okay, and it's being said, opposition forces going out there and say, they're trying to take away your rights, your liberties, and your freedoms. Then you hear people parroting, my rights, my liberties, and my freedoms. You ask them, what rights and liberties and freedoms are they taking away from you? Is it your right to talk, your right not to wear a mask, your right to go where you want to go? What are the rights exactly? List them. Ask them to list for you what are those rights and liberties. And as you said, the mental slavery would continue. What if the slavery that we are now experiencing is that of keeping you so afraid of being free, so afraid that somebody is going to take away your rights and liberty, that is a slavery that you know exists in, that you're living in such fear that before somebody does something, you ain't seeing it for your best interest, but you're seeing it as them trying to take away your rights and free. Have we ever thought of that? Have we ever thought that is the slavery that we are now experiencing?
Which is worse than physical enslavement of a human being. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean that when our foreparents who were brought from Africa and made that trip, that long voyage across the Atlantic, were packed in those boats like sardines, and many of them died before they got here or was extremely ill when they arrived here in the Western world, the Western part of the world. They were whipped and they went through turmoil and pain and pressure. It was a horrible time.
And that can't be taken away.
Right? We can't rub that off. We can't just get wiped off like you do when you make a mistake or you take a rub and just rub that off. That will forever be etched in our history. It's written. I wasn't there, you wasn't there, but several pieces of literature written over the passage of time in the books. And admission by a lot of the plantation owners before that it was really a cruel time. And that was really bad for our people. But in my own opinion, I think enslaving you mentally is even more crippling than physical enslavement. Because after a while, some of our foreparents got so used to the whips on their back that it really didn't mean anything to them again. Mm-hmm. It was like you were just beating me in vain. But when one controls the mindset of another person, when people are able to make you think a certain way and to act based on how you think, then they have real total control over you. And that is what we are saying to our people. Listen, we are living in a time when information, in fact, they say the information highway now is broader than any other time before. That we have an ability now to find out more than any other time what's happening, you know? Let us use it to our advantage. Let us do the verification. Let us ask why. And last week I said, sometimes before we decide what action we will take, there are a couple of things we may need to ask ourselves. Whose interest will it benefit if I act in a certain way? Would it be my interest? Would it be my family interest? Would it be my community interest? Would it be an interest for the nation? Yes? And sometimes you may find all of those answers being yes. Then you have to further decide, well then, if what I do now can benefit all of us, what's the best way to take that decision?
Yeah.
You know, do I take the decision to make sure that on top of all things else, that the country be the biggest beneficiary? I mean, we just as a nation sometimes become a little too selfish, self-centered, think only about ourselves, and have little regards for everything else around us. However, at the same time, we expect more and more and more from country. We expect country to provide more and more for us.
Yeah.
And you know, and we are bold and brisk to say, I'm a Grenadian and I need to benefit from it. And of course, we all need to. Whatever the spoils, whatever it is that this country can produce, whatever it is that this country has, every one of us, as Grenadians who reside here or anywhere else, should have an opportunity to benefit in an equitable way. Not an equal way, but an equitable way.
Yeah.
Because there are so many of us who never place a finger on that wheel. We're never prepared to turn the wheel. And sometimes when you say that, people think it is always talking about physical action, physical work. No. The fact that some of us would disobey the regulations, would go against the protocol, it's been counterproductive.
Exactly.
Because now the state has to employ more resources so that the police have to police you when they could have used that energy, that time
elsewhere
to do something else. Not that ensuring your safety and security is not important, but we should be able to keep ourselves safe from the pandemic because of all the information that is available without having the police to come around to enforce that.
Yep.
So a perfect example is the bus drivers and owners, for example. They quarrel about the fact that it was not economically beneficial to them to operate the way they were operating with a limited number of people, and they could not go with the full capacity that the bus is insured to carry, and so. And the authorities look and they test and they did different things. And they said, okay, sure. We believe that it will be reasonably safe enough for you to carry your full capacity. Yeah. However, everyone, including driver and conductor, must have a face covering, most likely a mask. That people entering the bus should be sanitized, their hands and so you need to provide that as the operator of the bus. That when you finish doing one trip, whether you're traveling from St. George's via St. David's route into Grenville, over the Granitang, or from St. to St. George's or to Grenville, whatever route you are operating from, after you make a complete haul from one point to the next, clean the bus down, sanitize it, use bleach, use some alcohol, spray it onto the seats, wipe it, just to ensure that you're taking all the necessary precautions. And for some people, That is too much to ask. That is too difficult. Oh, why we have to do this and why we have to? Well, you have to do it for safety precautionary measures. You ask to be allowed now during the COVID period because it's not like COVID is finished, It's not finished. We do not know, of course, if we have any medical tested cases at the moment. As far as we know, and from the reports that are presently available with us, maybe not. We don't know. By the end of the day, by tomorrow, by next week, what the case may be. Right? So we have to take all the necessary precautions.
Yeah.
But we ask for certain things. The opportunity is given within a controlled environment. And we find it hard to live with the controlled environment. This is not normal time to keep making the point.
Yep.
COVID has changed and may change for good. So much other things. Look, we are, as a party, a member of the IDU, the International Democratic Union. A lot of the activities takes place in London, England, because that's where the headquarters are. As General Secretary of the party, over the last 4 or 5 years, at least once a year, sometimes twice, I am expected to travel to London to attend conferences hosted by the IDU on a lot of issues. This year, well, you're aware of that. This year, the said meetings was held, the trainings and what have you. But everything was done virtually.
Yeah.
So I was right here in Grenada and able to listen to the lecturers, be able to place my questions, be able to interact with other colleagues from around the region and internationally, not just within the Caribbean, without setting foot on a plane, without having to be out of my homeland for a week or a week and a half and reap the same benefits. It is as a result of COVID. Hadn't it not been for COVID, a month and a half ago, I would have had to find myself in London for that encounter. But due to COVID, so COVID has brought about a lot of changes, some in a positive way, some in a negative way. So it's much more cost effective. It's time saving. It saves you from the hassle of having to be in transit from one plane to the next and traveling an entire day, because it's about almost 17 hours flying time when you leave here. Sometimes you have to go to Miami and wait a couple of hours and get another flight into London, and you arrive at Gatwick and you have to taxi or take another flight from Gatwick to Heathrow or to Birmingham or some other small airport, depending on where the conference is being held at any particular time. So it takes a lot of stress off for you. So that's one of the positives. There are several negatives that we can highlight. The point I want to make is that we have to accept as a people that things are different and may be different for a long while. We may not get back to what we knew and how we knew life before.
Yep.
As it's been coined now, there is a new normal. And the sooner we accept it, and no one is saying that if there is a law, there is a ruling, there is something that the authorities are putting in place, and after deep consideration, you think it's infringing on your rights and freedoms, on your liberties as enshrined in the Constitution. What happens to discussion? What happens to calling up? What happened to getting in touch and saying, hey,
But
we believe that if this is implemented in the way you are proposing it, and in some instances, sometimes the administration puts something out there and is hoping that you are going to tell them, or you're going to say, hey, we don't want to accept that as it is, and for this, that, or the other reason. Yeah?
yeah.
Let's do that. Let's behave civilized. Let us not behave as though we're still living in the Stone Age as cave people who didn't know how to communicate with one another. And the only means of communication was to come with the sledgehammer and the stone. yes, and fight each other and beat each other down to the ground. We are too advanced, and we have come too far to go back into those primitive methods of trying to get our message across. And our appeal is for our people to say, hey, well, I don't agree with this, or I don't agree with that, and these are my reasons.
And be able to justify why.
These are my reasons for disagreeing. How can we now have a dialogue on this issue? How can I compromise and you compromise, and we get to a place where both of us can benefit and satisfy the needs that we have? You know, we are intelligent people.
And what happened also to the judicial system? That's why it's there. If you feel that something is against the Constitution, against your rights and so on, and it's being implemented and you're saying no to it and it's still implemented, then it is your right to take that matter to court. That's what the judicial system is there to do.
Of course.
So sometimes we act too hastily in certain matters, and that's why I say it is important when you are when you hear things, when you're thinking about things, when things are brought to your attention, there are a few things that you need to consider, a few processes, thinking processes that you have to go through. The first of which is the motive behind what is being said. People say things for different reasons. Everybody, I may say something, Mr. Bola, we saying the same thing, but my reason for telling you is different from your reason for telling somebody else. Some people say it out of concern, some people say it out of malice, some people say it, different reasons. So you have to ask the important questions. What is the reasoning behind the person saying this or doing this? Are they saying these things to alert me to a danger, to an ill? Are they saying this so I would go in an uproar with them to create some semblance of unrest? Are they saying this because they are genuinely concerned about the health and well-being of the country? Reasons. That is what we have to take from this. Reasons. What is the reasoning behind somebody saying this? Secondly,
or what is it they want to achieve
from saying this?
Yeah.
Secondly, we have to understand that different things affect different people in different ways. Your experience with a situation is not definitely going to be my experience as well. So the person saying it to you doesn't necessarily mean that is exactly what you are going to experience and it's going to become your problem. And you said something last week, and I meant to put it in writing and put it as a nice little quote for you, because I think it was very, very relevant. That sometimes when we foresee a problem, or we think that there is a problem, and we see something as a problem, and there is no solution, it's not because that thing is a problem, but maybe there is no problem at all. We just need to come to terms with the fact that is the reality of the situation. And how do we now deal with the reality of the situation and move forward? And I think that is something that we must now enshrine, in our daily living. Everything is not always a problem.
True.
Everything is not always a problem. We have to stop looking at the problems and start looking at ways in which we can deal with it.
We're not just looking at the problems, Duncan, but stop looking at everything as though everything is a problem.
Absolutely.
Because that's what comes to mind immediately. Something is set out and we start seeing a problem. Something is asked of us, that's a problem. Mm-hmm. You are told to do something that is different to the way in which you were doing it before, it is a problem. So we continue to see everything as a problem, as opposed to sometimes saying, well, let me see how that can have positive effects in a different way. There's a caller again. Yeah.
Yes, there is.
Hello, good morning, caller.
Good morning, Mr. Bola.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Miss Duncan.
Good morning. How are you?
I am fine, thanks.
Wonderful.
Happy to hear you on Mr. Bola this morning.
Yes,
we try our best.
We're there again, trying our best.
Just want to add my little bit here.
Yes.
Just really wish Mr. Bola and Miss Duncan, we as a people, can be more tolerant, more peaceful, more,
a little more patient,
happy with each other, more patriotic,
yes,
more loving.
Yes.
Unless we don't develop that quality,
yes,
those qualities, and, basically pass it on to one another. We're not really living, we're existing. You understand what I'm saying?
True.
You only truly can live when you develop those qualities.
Yes.
And then you can embrace humanity,
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't embrace humanity, you cannot develop properly,
Yeah.
Because what you're going to try to do is to build your city on your own wheel, on your own might, But if you do it without God, it's not going to happen. It will crush.
That's what they say.
Anyway, guys, listening to you people, and I'm very happy. Like the tone of the conversation this morning.
Thank
Take
you.
care and God bless.
Thank
Not
you for
just
your
to
call.
you, but to everybody in the country.
Yeah. Thank you for your call and for your contribution. And so rightly put, he had the aspect of God. And that is so true. Even the Bible speaks about it. Unless the city and the builders build with God, they build in vain. Just as the Bible says, unless the watchman who watches, have God looking with him, he looks in vain.
Yeah.
And that caller have said something that we all need to take into consideration from time to time. Are we living or are we existing?
Yeah.
It's a question that all of us must ask. I need to ask it constantly. You need to ask it. Every one of us. Those in authority. The politicians who most of the time everybody pick on because, something goes wrong, the politician gets blamed. Something goes correct, the people get praise because they obeyed and they did. But whoever gets the blame or the praise, these are questions that we need to ask ourselves from time to time. What do I want to do? Do I just want to exist or do I want to live?
Yeah.
And to live, it means that we have to embrace humanity. And embracing humanity means that we have to be tolerant. We have to be patient. We have to accept people for who they are. And until we bring that change in our lives where we can accept people for who they are and then try to inculcate in them new ideas and new ways of living and how to do things better. The first thing that comes is acceptance, because if we are not tolerant and patient enough to understand that to change another human being, we must first change.
Yep.
We must change. We must come down from where we think we are on that high pedestal and come down and see. Because, it is important sometimes, Ms. Duncan, to understand that people sometimes act in particular ways for different reasons. You sort of made that point before. Some people want attention. Some people are crying out for help, but don't know how to do it in a more simplified way. So they act in a particular way so someone would come to their rescue. Some people just don't know how to do it better, right? And we sometimes say, but that man is such an educated man. Or I remember that woman going to secondary school. Yeah, sometimes they do. Academically, sometimes they are brilliant. But are they socially equipped?
To deal,
to deal with certain life situations?
Yeah. We have a call on the line. Let's take this call. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, morning.
I should ask Mr. Bowler if he could call me after the program, please. I have something. I'm grieving of something, and I want him to talk to me after
You're grieving? Well, Lord God. I hear you, Mr. Bartholomew.
Yeah, mister?
I heard you, and I will definitely call you.
Please call. I'll call you as soon as you go.
All right, great.
All right.
Yeah, so sometimes people act out in different ways, yes? And tolerance for each other is important, Accepting people for who they are and what they are is important. But it doesn't mean that if someone is not doing something correctly, that when we accept them, we tolerate them, we have patience with them, that we should leave them that way.
Yeah.
We have to make the effort to see them change and to get to that better place. And it's important. And if all of us in our own way, as we used to say and sing, and sometimes we don't understand the meaning of a lot of those songs, and I'm not going to sing again for you, Ms. Duncan, this little song, and most of us knew it. We sang it in preschool and very early in our school days, Brighten the Corner Where You Are.
Right in the corner where you are.
You know that song?
Yes.
Right. If we all try to live by that principle, brightening the corner where we are, the whole world will become a better place. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Mrs. Dabula.
Yes, sir. Hello? Just listen to the telephone. Turn down your radio a little bit or move away from it.
All right, caller, I know you're trying to reach us, but you have to listen for us on the radio and
No, listen to us on the phone when you call.
Not on the radio.
Yes, because there's a delay. If you're listening to the radio, you would not engage in the conversation properly. So you either turn down the volume of the radio or move away from it, whether it's your radio or whatever else you're listening from, and just talk on the telephone and listen to us there. We're going to accommodate
All right,
you.
I want to accommodate some of the comments on the live video. Let's start here. It has been said, no government, no police can protect us. It is in our hands. Someone else is saying here, anyone coming home from Canada should be aware that we are being told about that every hour on the hour. Today, Thanksgiving, only the people who live under the same roof can have dinner together with family or not. So I'm assuming she's saying that people they're being informed that
right.
they need to, not socialize too much, and I want us to, and I want to reiterate something I said earlier for those of you who joined us late. We are going to at some point have to figure out a way in which we can exist with COVID. An environment in which we can thrive with COVID, because we don't know when it's going to go. And I want us to remember that we must now prepare ourselves and prepare our minds. And we would hope that we are at that place already where we are going to hear of cases of COVID in Grenada. We would hope that that's not the case, or that is never going to happen. But the reality of the situation is, as we begin to revive our economy, as we begin to allow people back into the country for whatever reason, whether tourism or someone is just coming back home, because we have a lot of people in the diaspora who are stuck there as a result of COVID. People who have gone to study and want to come back home and see their family that they didn't get to do, in the latter part of last year, early this year. These are all scenarios in which people would come back to Grenada. We are going to have instances of COVID. What we need to focus on is how the case presents itself. Is it going to be in a controlled setting where someone comes, they go into quarantine, they test, they're positive, and it's something that we have managed before? It's not new. We've managed, because some of the new cases that we received, some of the early cases that we received presented in that way. Or is it going to be a situation where somebody broke the protocols and now we are at risk of community spread? Or is it going to be a situation where there is a cluster of people? These are all scenarios in which the virus can present itself in a country. We need to focus on that. That is what our focal point should be. Not whether the borders are open or the borders are closed, or if schools are open or if schools are closed, or any of that. What we need to focus on is how the virus presents itself, when it presents itself.
And are we prepared? Are we in a position to deal with and take care of those who may contract it if they ever contract it? Now, our hope is that, as we have always said from the beginning, we hope that no one in Grenada ever does.
Yeah.
But based on the fluidity of that virus, based on what we have seen happen in other jurisdictions, based on the news that we've learned about that are happening in first world countries, we cannot be naive here in Grenada, or so naive to believe, Grenada is so blessed there would never be a case or another case, or we may never have contraction again. We're saying that the government has to do its part within the limitations, trying to take the advice as much as possible from the authorities and ensuring that the protocols and precautions are put in place, and that our people will understand why they are put in place and follow them thoroughly, so that if it happens at all, we would be in a position to take best care. Absolutely. We will be in a position where we can handle and deal with. Our health situation, as we know it, is a bit fragile. Yeah. we don't have the kind of facilities and the resources as some of the first world countries, and even
they can't deal
they
with it.
couldn't. Most of them can't. Most of them have been what we say almost crippled by COVID-19. They have not been able to stand up to it and do as well as they would have liked to. So imagine us in Little Grenada that has less resources and less personnel, human and financial resources we're talking about. So we have to be very careful. We have to take all of the necessary precautions, to help us and to prevent us from recapturing, infecting one another. So that's the appeal. That's the call. It's very clarion. Yes, we are repeating it over and over. Some people probably may by now become very tired of hearing us saying this thing. Why they continue to say that? Oh, we heard that week before. We heard that 2 weeks ago. Because it is still very relevant.
And necessary.
It is necessary. We are still living in a period where COVID can still affect us. And we need to, as a people, take cognizance of that.
Absolutely.
We need to, as a people, recognize that, as we say, we are not immune to it. Grenada, as a state, yes, 24 cases before, no death. Thank God. Thanks to the authorities, thanks to the frontline workers, thanks to the medical staff and others who have put themselves on and their lives and the security of their family online, put it out there and ensure that people who had contracted the virus, that they dealt with them, that they worked with them, that they brought them back and nursed them back to proper health. We're grateful for that. Now let us show that gratefulness by ensuring that we follow the protocols as they are being laid out, so that those who have made sacrifices before can feel that the sacrifices did not go in vain.
Yes.
Yes. And other people, I think we can do it. We have the ability. We really do have the ability. We can make this thing happen. We can set a record. We are being seen by the rest of the world as good people, very positive, control COVID or keep it at bay to a large extent. Let us make the rest of the world see that as a people, we are quite capable of continuing along those lines and making sure that nothing bad continue to happen as it relates to COVID.
I was on the phone with one of my friends this weekend, and he was saying to me, he said, girl, y'all, he's from Barbados, and he said, girl, y'all are one of the strictest protocols in the Caribbean. And I say, yes, but that's good. That's what has kept us safe for so long.
Yeah.
So, people looking in are seeing the protocols for what it is, as a measure of keeping our people safe. We've tried as best as possible to save lives. Now, what we're working on, because we had that down pat, how do we save lives? These are the protocols. And the protocols may need to change. As time goes by, the protocols may need adjusting. It's not set in stone. But so far, we have been doing a commendable job. And it's not just us tooting our own horns. It's people in the wider world, in the wider region, tooting our horns for us. Sometimes we don't even appreciate what we have here. Other people have to appreciate it for us, But it is important for us to understand this. The protocols are there to save lives. We've done a good job at that so far. What we are focusing on now is saving livelihoods. That is most important. There must be a balance. Finding the right balance in these COVIDious times is a difficult task. Some people look at it and think it's black and white. Open the borders, close the borders. Open school, close school. Back and forth. They just think it's black and white like that. But it is not. Saving livelihoods is also as important as saving lives. So we must find that delicate balance, and we must be able to move and shift as well. We must be flexible as well. The flexibility call is not just for you to call on government when you feel like you want a little freedom and, to do what you want to do. You say, well, why they can't ease up the place? Why, we can't be flexible. And then afterwards, when you find things getting coconious, things getting hard, you say, well, they had to lock down the place now, we are COVID. You understand? It doesn't work like that. It's not on a feelings basis. That's not how COVID works. COVID isn't saying, well, I will skip Grenada today, because them people and them in feeling, they really feeling me right now. So I will skip Grenada. It doesn't work like that. We have to be as flexible as we are calling on the government to be. We have to understand and appreciate the fact that they are taking into consideration that our lives need to be protected, that there are people out there who cannot protect themselves, and they have to take all of those people into consideration as well. So those of us who are on social media and the ones who are making all these calls and making all these demands and so on, you might be able to protect yourself. You might be able to say, okay, well, I can put on a mask and go outside and everything is fine. But there are people who can't say the same. And these people, government must also take into consideration. So I need people to understand that, and I need us to make an effort to at least try. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt if we just try. At the end of the day, we'll see the light at the end of the tunnel. We have a caller on the line. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Miss Duncan and Brother Boland.
Good morning, sir.
I don't want to make a comment. All I want to do is get a number I can call after the show, because there are a lot of things boiling up in me.
Okay.
But I just want to talk off
air.
the program.
Okay.
Right. Well, you can call back the same number. You can call
After 12 o'clock?
You can call before 12. You can
Or while
the national report is playing.
On going.
So you can call about 10 to 12. Same number.
Okay, thank you. I'll do that.
You are welcome. Yeah. Well, that sounds serious, now, Mr. Buller.
Yeah, well.
That sounds serious.
You are capable, Mr. Duncan. I have trust in you.
Me, Mr. Buller, I capable. Who tell you is me the man want to speak with?
Your name was called, you say Miss Duncan and Mr. Buller. Don't make the listeners believe that you're not capable. You are capable, and there's a lot of ability that lies within you.
Let me take some comments of the live video. Someone is saying COVID is here to stay. Borders can't stay closed forever. We have to be responsible and get used to the fact that it is in our hands. We have to be responsible for our actions. Self-responsibility. I always preach that. You are responsible for your action. You can't go down the road and shoot Jamie and say, well, it's Mr. Bola that make me shoot Jamie. You decided on your own that you are going to pick up the gun and do that.
And to add to that, as you say, because it's a way I put it too, at the end of the day, when the master calls us to questioning, you cannot use the name of another person for excuse. So I can't say, oh God, I did what I did to Miss Duncan because she did that to me. He's going to deal with Miss Duncan for her own deeds, what she did, whether to me or to anybody else, and he's going to deal with me for what I do. Absolutely. So don't ever believe that we can use each other as excuse at the end of the day. If the master is who they say he is based on the scriptures, and is a reasonable man as they say he is, and an understanding individual as the scriptures say he is, we will all have to account for our deeds. Yes? Yeah. So we must take responsibility for what we do, what we say, how we do it, how we say it, and stop making excuses and talk about because the government do this or the government do that, I have to do the other. No. We have a choice and we can be better than them. Let us show, even if it is those in authorities that are not doing things correctly, we can call them out, but we need to act differently to show them up.
Someone here is saying they need to mind their immediate business and that government and those qualify worry about the borders. Let me see here. Somebody says you have to answer for yourself. Okay. And yet you hear the opposing group commend the administration for such a good job. Great team. That came to mind the other day, Mr. Bola. I often look at social media and see activists from opposing parties saying, oh, well, we don't have no COVID in Grenada. Let's bring schools back to normal, or let's allow people to, move on the buses as normal and so on. And in my mind, I say, if placed in that immediate situation, what would their decision be? Because that is what you have to consider. When you're listening to all of that, that is what you have to consider. What would their decision be if they were placed in that situation? And would they actually do what they are asking this administration to do? Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
I have a question. I did call once before and ask about the possibility of people here in Brooklyn, New York, who are in home confinement or whatever, coming to the Caribbean to work. I'm a Grenadian, and my daughter works with the New York Times, and they were just told this morning that they are not allowed to come back into office until July the 6th. And they all jumping for joy, of course. And the suggestion was made to me that I find 2 houses in Grenada where they can go down and work during the time that they will not be able to go back to office. My question, first and foremost, are there certain areas in the country where the broadband or the internet reception is better than others? Because they're going to need that, because they are talking to people in Hong Kong and all over the world, and the time zones are different. So it's very important. Now, that's one of the most important things. And to find 2 houses, because it's like 7 of them, to find 2 houses, and they could afford it because, trust me, they make money at their young age that I have never, I couldn't dream about back in the day. So that is my main question. Is the internet or broadband or whatever better in certain areas than in others? Because that is going to be very important to their work. I will hang up and listen. Thank you very much.
Great.
I don't think there's any specific area that is better. I think it has to do more with the package that you choose. What kind of internet package you own. I don't think anywhere in Grenada has better connection than anywhere else. I mean, I could be wrong, but to my knowing, that's not how it really works.
Well, I don't know that you're wrong, Ms. Duncan. In fact, the government has done a significant investment. The minister or the previous minister for infrastructural development speaks to it all the time. In fact, it is as a result of that kind of a work in broadband that now our schools are able, all of them, to be online, and we can have the devices and the online classes going on undisturbed. There was that investment of well over $14 million with Digicel. It was what is called a PPP, a public-private partnership with government and Digicel as the service provider, where I think Digicel came up with the major part of the funding, over 90%, and over time government is reimbursing them for that investment. And so now broadband is available island-wide as far as I know. And if it is different, well, I'd like to know that. I don't think it's different. Almost everywhere we can have broadband connection. So for the benefit of the caller, it's island-wide. In terms of where you would like these people to be, it's a matter of preference. The entire island is lovely.
Yeah.
There are some people who have a preference to be more in the city area, the capital, which is St. George's. Then you have big parish St. Andrews, where the agricultural sector is much, more lavish there, where people can get readily available more fruits and vegetables. Not that in St. George's you can't, because we are a small island. It doesn't take, more than 45 minutes at least drive from Big Parish, Grenville, or St. Andrews to get to any part of St. George's.
But it's
you have the western coast, which is more like a fishing village. You talk from the lower part of St. Patrick's West, right down into St. John's, or from St. John's right up into St. Patrick's, which is more like the fishing. It's a quieter side of the island, farming, fishing, the mainstay of life, where you can work in much quieter conditions. And then you have, of course, the eastern coast, which is you go from the northeastern side of St. Andrews down into St. David's. So you have that. The south of the island is generally the tourist belt area, and those informations are not difficult to get. The Board of Tourism, the website, government website would give you a lot of those information that you're calling. One would have to follow the protocols. A lot has changed from the very early days when the borders was just open, where people had to quarantine for 14 days. There have been a lot of tweaking and changing to that. The most recent thing is that you're coming with a PCR test, which would be preferred to be negative. That was taken within 7 days of you traveling. You would have a rapid test when you enter. You must quarantine for at least 4 days in the first instance at an approved facility that the medical professionals and those working with the tourism sector would have approved. You quarantine there, and on the 4th day, I think another PCR test is being done. And once that is negative again, you're free to leave if you want to. Or you may be, if it's not, well, not maybe, if it turns out to be positive that you have the virus, you definitely would then have to quarantine until you're recovered and free enough to leave. So those are the things that I would advise the people to check with. And of course, Grenada welcomes you and others, 6, we could welcome 12, 24. There are facilities that are available. You have hotels, you have cottages, you have beach houses, you have homes, Airbnbs where there are people who have sufficient accommodation at their home where they would facilitate you, where they would provide breakfast and lunch. And
we have
the
apartment buildings.
The arrangements can be made.
Especially with SGU students not back on the island as yet. There are a lot of available apartment
yes, in the southern part of the island.
But no, so it's really is their preference where they prefer to go, how far away from the beaches they want to be, how secluded they want to be, how much mountainous fresh air they want. It depends on what they really want. And
by nature of the size of Grenada, the terrain, and the fact that we have a good road network where each village, you can speak probably, or parish, is interconnected with the other. 1 hour, 60 minutes is what it takes you from any part of Grenada, from the farthest point to the other. So from way up north to south, or from south to north, west to east, anyway, a maximum of 60 minutes driving at a reasonable pace, 35 to 40 miles per hour, which is what is recommended by the traffic department in Grenada for most of us to be driving at. And you can get from one point to the next. Yes, probably for some people who drive a little slower, especially if you're new to the country, we'd say 90 minutes, an hour and a half. But generally, if you have a driver moving you around, 60 minutes. Non-stop driving. If you want to stop for sightseeing and so, then you cater for an additional hour or 1 and a half. So it's not very difficult, my bro, but we welcome you.
We have a call, and I think that's going to be our last call for the morning. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, caller. Good morning.
What the gentleman had said he has 2 houses in Grenada.
No. He said
No,
he
he said
wanted.
he's looking for
He's
2,000.
looking for.
What are you looking for?
Yes. Like to rent.
Oh,
For apparently 6 months.
Yeah.
so I thought you said you had to.
No.
No,
He's
he's
looking for, because you have this group of people who don't have to go back to office, so they want to use it. It's work for them, but also like a kind of vacation. So they want to know that the internet connection and so is good, so they can continue to do their work and post it online to their bosses and so. So we're just kind of explaining that any part of Grenada will be good because we're not very big. The internet connection is good island-wide. The road network is of reasonable. So that's what we were doing. Yes.
Okay, no problem. All right, Mr.
Great.
Bula, I think we've come to a place where we can wind down for the morning.
Okay. Wind down the program, eh? Yes. Okay.
I
good.
can't with you.
No. I oftentimes
wind down
take
the
things
program.
at a literal meaning because, I understand that, the oscillation and so is good for your health. It's a good means of exercise. And so I welcome the idea when people tell me, let's wind down, I mean, I do it for good exercise. And at my age now, the more fluid my middle parts become, it works better for me. And so when you tell me let's wind down,
All right, as time is winding down.
Okay.
And I said wind and not wine. But anyway, that's here and not there. It's not an English lesson. But we just want to appeal to the general public just once again, please. It is in everyone's best interest that we follow the protocols. Nobody is above the protocol. Nobody is below. Nobody is immune from COVID. Everyone has a responsibility in the protection of the life and livelihood of others. Because while you may not be seriously affected, or you may think, I have a strong immune system, COVID ain't doing me nothing. Guess what? You ain't keeping COVID for yourself. Recklessness means endangerment of the lives of other people who may not be as lucky, as you are in terms of health, and may have to struggle and battle with the effects of COVID-19. So when you are thinking, or when you are considering going out and you think about a mask and you say, me, I'm putting on no mask because this is a conspiracy. Don't do it for you. Do it for that child who is asthmatic and most likely may not survive an onset of COVID. Do it for the elderly woman who takes the bus every morning to go to the market to buy her groceries, or to buy her fish, or to go to the pharmacy, or to go to the health center, whatever it may be, and may not be able to survive an onset of COVID-19. Do it for the person who is suffering with cancer. Do it for the person who has a low immune system because they have some autoimmune disease. Do it for those people, not just for you. That is what being a Grenadian is all about. Being patriotic, being a human being, being considerate is all about. Sometimes you don't do things for yourself only, but you do it with other people in mind. And that is what we want to appeal to people this morning. Don't do it just for you. Do it for everyone else who can't do it for themselves. Sabola?
Well, Ms. Duncan, well said. I think we just need, as Grenadians, as humans, to be considerate. And I was said by a previous caller, let us not just exist, but let us live. Let us live in harmony with nature and with each other. Let us live in harmony with what was provided here for us. Let us respect the rights of each other. You have rights, others also have rights. And let us not do anything whatsoever that is going to infringe on those rights or make a life become very difficult for the people who are living or coexisting with us. We definitely have to take more care and become much more considerate, my friends. Yes? And so, as we have advised today, we really do hope that if there was someone or a group of persons out there that never took into consideration some of the things that we said. The fact that they need to be more responsible, the fact that they need to be more considerate. After hearing us today, would want to at least practice some of those measures. Listen to the protocols. Do it. Not because we feel we are afraid of the authorities, but because it is the correct thing to do at this time. So, my friends, we want to bid you goodbye for this Monday. We've come to the end of our program, Hard Talk, for today. We hope that we'll be alive and you would be alive and around for us to join each other again tomorrow, please God. But we'll have further discussion, maybe on another issue tomorrow, God's willing. I do bid you goodbye from Hard Talk at this point in time. And remember, whatever you say or do it, always keeping in mind that we at Hard Talk want to be talking with you and not about you. Continue to enjoy your Monday afternoon.
All right, guys, we've come to the end. Please do enjoy the remainder of your day and stay tuned for the national report. Have a good one.
Projected 6% growth for the local economy in 2021. We'll have the details to this story and more in the national report. With the details to the news for Friday, October 9th, 2020, I'm Delroy Lozan. Governor General Her Excellency Dame Cécile La Grenade says Grenada's economy will recover in 2021 with a projected 6% growth. Dame Cécile was opening of the 4th session of the 10th Parliament at Mount Weldale. In 2019, when the budget was presented, the outlook for 2020 was favorable, with projected GDP growth of 3.2%. Months later, the economic fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic was devastating, resulting in the complete shutdown of the economy. 2021, with a projected 6% growth. Dame Cécile was at the time delivering the throne speech on the occasion of the ceremonial state opening of the 4th session of the 10th Parliament at Mount Weldale. In 2019, when the budget was presented, the outlook for 2020 was favorable, with projected GDP growth of 3.2%. Months later, the economic fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic was devastating, resulting in the complete shutdown of the economy with double-digit decline. Her Excellency highlighted government's plans to deploy all tools to stimulate a strong recovery to bring Grenada back on track to experience growth.
My government is projecting a strong recovery in 2021 with growth of approximately 6%, supported by a robust rebound in the construction and agriculture sectors. The rebound of tourism and tertiary education sectors is projected to be somewhat slower and will depend to a large extent on how quickly the global economy and travel industry recover. That said, my government will deploy all available policy tools to stimulate a strong, job-rich recovery in 2021 and ensure that we return to a robust, sustainable, and inclusive growth path.
The public will be given an opportunity through consultations to influence the course of developmental programs and projects.
My government intends to pursue an ambitious program of action. A cabinet-appointed advisory committee is currently evaluating and refining recommendations from various subcommittees to help shape my government's agenda in the coming period. Additionally, my government has undertaken broader public consultations to further inform its plans, programs, and policies.
Prime Minister Dr. The Right Honorable Keith Mitchell attributes the positive projection for growth by the IMF to an increase in private sector projects.
They predicted that even more than 6, and therefore we wanted to be more conservative. And I think they were looking at the number of private sector projects, which clearly are now coming on stream. The Range project in St. David's, the Livera project, you're talking $1 billion project. People have invested over $100 and something million already and counting. In fact, we could have been further advanced in that project had it not been for the pandemic. They wanted to bring in their architects and engineers in at a time where we had the virus was raging in China, and a lot of the workers were coming from. We said, no, we need the project, but we also need the safety.
The throne speech was unveiled under the theme Towards Vision 2035, Recovery, Transformation and Resilience. Prime Minister Dr. The Right Honorable Keith Mitchell boasts of exciting prospects within the construction industry as both private and public sector investments initiatives come on stream. More than 4,000 jobs are expected to be created within the sector. Construction contributes significantly towards economic development. However, due to the effects of COVID-19, the sector remained inactive from March until recently.
We are going to be seeing this as a major initiative going forward. But I think one of the things we have to come to terms with it, as we get this opportunity, the government by itself cannot be expected to do all. Every one of us citizens must play a role in going forward. We need the social partners, the understanding of this is a special period where we're coming from ground zero, so to speak, with this pandemic. People have to understand what is taking place internationally.
Dr. Mitchell commended Grenadians for accepting the reality of living and surviving amidst the challenges of COVID-19. He said not only the construction sector has a positive outlook, but also the agriculture sector, which has seen an enormous boost, especially during the lockdown when almost everyone turned to farming.
The emphasis clearly on the construction sector, development of major projects to provide job opportunities, the emphasis on agricultural development, given that we have seen more activities in the agricultural sector in this pandemic period, where people become to realize more of what we used to see, that we will always have to depend on what we grow here locally. And you see the impact of this around the country. Wherever you pass around the country, you see all these agricultural stalls developed all through villages, and they are remaining even in a period where it appears that we are successfully implementing our control on the virus.
This is the National Report. The news will continue after the break.
Protect yourself and our community from COVID-19. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. If soap and water are not available, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer with at least 70% alcohol. Use a tissue when blowing your nose, sneezing, or coughing. Immediately discard the tissue properly and wash or sanitize your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Let's do our part to ensure that each and every Grenadian remains healthy. To stay up to date, visit the Government of Grenada's webpage or the Ministry of Health's Facebook page. For more information, contact the Ministry of Health's hotline by calling 53-VIRUS. This has been a public service announcement brought to you by the Ministry of Health.
Welcome back. Newly appointed Minister for Finance, Honorable Gregory Bowen, says strategic planning will be a fundamental component of government's thrust to rebuild the economy in the face of COVID-19. During an interview immediately following presentation of the throne speech by Governor-General Her Excellency Dame Cecile La Grenade, Minister Bowen said there is also a need for government to remodel its original plans to effectively address the challenges and spur economic activity.
Don't forget, we have what you call the new public management before you come and you run a budget. But there must be strategic plans that you must implement. And the first strategic plan is the 2035. We have that on board. Then we'll listen to the throne speech. And if you look at the throne speeches over the years, they will have reflected what the 2035 year plan, although that too is albeit new. But right now the budget speech will move from the 2035 into the throne speech, and we have to prioritize. If we had no pandemic, then we could have done most of what we have in it. So we have to start, prioritize, and do what we can at various stages. So we get all of some in 2035, the more important one, and then we start the process of the others in 2021, and we will finish in 2022 and 2023.
Minister Bowen, who has been integrally involved in the Ministry of Finance since 2013 and even before, cited the importance of agriculture to enhance food security and reduce the country's huge food import bill.
A lot of attention has been given to it and will continue to be given to agriculture in the economy. And the point is plowing in the resources into it. Pandemic period, difficult times. But as we do the strategic planning and with whatever intake we have in revenue, and once we give it what is necessary, not only give it what is necessary, but we must have the players there to institute the plan. And we have found out, not only in Grenada, that going from a plan to what should be done, implementation, is extremely difficult. So it is not only the government who must implement, institutions within the country and the farmers themselves. And since they're outside the control, you must have the good leadership to bring them on board. It may take half a year or 1 year, but everybody must be on board.
The government of Grenada has announced plans to adopt short and medium-term priorities designed to put the economy back on a sustainable, inclusive path. This is in keeping with government's National Strategic Development Plan 2020 to 2035, which highlights the vision of resilience, promoting human dignity and economic sustainability. Governor General Her Excellency Dame Cécile La Grenade says these priorities are consistent with the government's plans towards the 2035 agenda of transformation and resilience.
The reinvigoration of our main engines of growth, supported by efforts to boost our competitiveness, diversify our export base, and create sustainable jobs. The continued investment in the health and education of our people. The continued investment in leveraging information and communication technology. The continued investment in agriculture and light manufacturing sector to boost food and nutrition security and to reduce our huge food import bill. The rehabilitation and maintenance of our road network and other physical infrastructure. Continued efforts to build resilience against external shocks such as global public health emergencies. The continued protection and empowerment of the poor and vulnerable among us. The continued efforts to protect our environmental assets from human and climate change impacts.
And finally in the news, with the responsibility for hospital services in the Ministry of Health added to her portfolio, the Honorable Delma Thomas took time off her busy schedule to familiarize herself with the new environs. On Thursday, she met with management and staff at the Mangé Mental Hospital to discuss challenges and chart the way forward. Minister Thomas explained that staffing will be one of the main areas of focus. The ministry strives to ensure that staff can deliver quality service to patients at the facility.
Staffing would be a priority for the entire healthcare, but dealing with some of the issues that confront staffing, because we have staffing in some instances and there are some challenges, and so we know that if we want to really boost the morale of our staff, then we have to deal with some of the challenges that confront them. But we also will be, as a government and within the next budget cycle, you will hear more of our decisions as it relates to healthcare, as healthcare has to be a priority for us, has been a priority and will even be a greater priority within the 2021 budget, understanding and appreciating that we are in a pandemic, and so the pandemic would have opened our eyes to many more challenges that maybe we weren't even aware in the healthcare sector, and so how we can best deal with it. Therefore, I will be working along with the team to see what we can do to assist in improving the healthcare and to sensitize people that mental health can happen to anybody, and mental health, people with mental issues, we should not discriminate them. So we want to speak against discrimination and get people educated and understanding and appreciating persons with mental illness, persons like ourselves and our families, our friends, our mothers, our aunts, our uncles, and therefore we should treat them with respect, dignity.
That story has brought us to the end of the news for Friday, 9th October 2020. Recapping the headline: projected 6% growth for the local economy in 2021. That's all from us here at the newsroom. On behalf of all who made this newscast possible, management and staff of the Government Information Service, I'm Delroy Louzan, thanking you for joining us.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new National Party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.